Runway 10 left, wind shear alert, 35 knot gain over runway. American 2355, wind shear advisory in effect. You got a 10 left departure, wind shear alert, 35 knot for the runway. Do you want to wait it out?
What is your wind type?
Current airport wind 26015, gust 22.
No, we can't do that.
The views, comments, stories, and opinions shared within this podcast are our own, or those of our guests, and in no way represent the views of the companies, associations, or organizations that any of us may work for or represent. All stories, events, and tales shared within this episode may or may not have happened in the manner in which they were told. They may or may not have even happened at all. The details have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty alike. This is Squawk Ident. You're listening to Squawk Ident, an aviation podcast that explores the many pathways to an aviation profession, the realities of what a professional aviator can expect in today's marketplace, and we share many stories along the way. I'm your host, Aviator Tony, a professional airline pilot, currently flying for a U.S. legacy airline with over 20 years on the flight line. Welcome aboard Flight 137 of the Squawk Ident Podcast, recorded on the 5th of August, 2023. From the mobile Aviator Sound Studios, from high atop the third floor of the Marriott Hotel in Fort Worth, Texas. On today's flight, I have the privilege to sit down with one of Legacy Airlines' newest first officers. We will discover how his journey in aviation started in Honduras, and it led him to a Legacy Airbus pilot position at Legacy Airlines. We also recount our time together at long-term flight training here at Legacy. We will cover the process from interview to check ride. We'll also discuss captain PAs and how what you say can and will go viral in the court of social media. All this and more on this, the 137th episode of the Squawk Ident Podcast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 137. This is your captain speaking. Well, not quite. At least, not yet. The schoolhouse has been my home for the last 5 weeks. Tomorrow, my guest and I have a check ride coming up. Now, we're both type rated in the Airbus already, so it's not necessarily a type ride, but it is a check ride. And I lucked out. My training partner these past 5 weeks has been completely top-notch, on the ball, top shelf, and I could not have asked for someone to be more prepared and more knowledgeable on the aircraft. As I mentioned in the opener, my training partner was born and raised in Honduras, where his dream to become a pilot took hold. He's going to tell us all about that right now. Help me in welcoming to the show, Gorky. Gorky, how you doing?
Hi, Tony. Doing great.
Yeah, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
No, my pleasure. I wanted to do this, I heard your podcast a couple of days ago, and I'm impressed.
Well, thank you so much. Now, it's funny. We're sitting here in the third floor of the Marriott Hotel. Didn't quite turn out to be what I expected. Now, we've talked about recurrent training before on the podcast. Some of the other co-hosts and I have sat down and outlined what to expect in upgrade class. When Captain Rob went through his upgrade class, we talked about it. And I knew kind of what to expect because I've been through upgrade class before in my previous airline career, my previous airline. And, I was expecting a lot of the same. There were many similarities from a regional airline upgrade class, and there were many things that have happened a lot differently. Now, you're always concerned as an upgrading pilot that when you move from the right seat to the left seat, you want to have a partner that is going to be not only prepared and willing to learn the aircraft and go through all the ground school training and simulator events, but you also want a partner that is really a good stick. And, you don't really hear that term anymore, a good stick. And I really did luck out. The first time we met was day one. Now, what happens differently here at Legacy Airlines is when you upgrade, you go through long term. We don't have the short course. And that's what I did at the regional airline. I don't know if, Gorky, you and I had a chance to talk about this, but at the regional, I was on the Embraer 145 at the airline we affectionately call Sandpiper. And on the 145, if you held that seat on the right seat and you do an upgrade, it's called a qualified upgrade, meaning you don't have to go through long-term. It was a much, much more abbreviated course. They don't have that here. And the reason they don't have that here at Legacy, I've been told, is because when you do that, then you have a bunch of captains upgrading in a matter of a week and a half. And then you have all these FOs that are paired with other FOs to do a type ride. And it's not good. There's some negative learning going on. You're switching seats and you're having to learn 2 roles, and it's not productive. So the company has decided here at Legacy that they're not going to have the qualified upgrade, and everyone's just going to go through the long course, regardless if you've been on the aircraft already typed or not. And that is the process that we're going through. Now, what I really wanted to do is focus on, we're going to get to our time together and what we've been up to the last 5 weeks. And for those listeners out there that are thinking, wow, it's been a long time since you put out your last podcast, it has. And we warned you, ladies and gentlemen, that this might happen on the last show. But this is exactly it. We have been focused 5 days a week on getting through systems, getting through validations, getting through maneuvers, validations as well. And that's really been the focus. And then your days off, all you want to do is just decompress and pass out. Well, Gorky, when I met you, you told me a little bit about your history, because that's the first thing we do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And your history really did impress me. And I really want to start at the beginning. So here you are. You're growing up with your family in Honduras. And did you decide you wanted to be in aviation as a young child? Or was that something that you later on discovered?
Well, it's weird because nobody in my family is related to the aviation business. So even in my case, I was born and raised in a really small town back in Honduras. So even a small airfield, no, not at all. So I went to, elementary school, high school, and then when I finished high school, I had the opportunity to move to the capital city in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Then I started my college degree, and once I finished, I remember seeing, the airplanes around, kind of impressive because engineering and everything else. However, in my mind, in order to become a pilot, you have to be like an Air Force pilot before going to the military and then do the transition. But no. Then I realized that there are different ways to do that. And one day, one of my coworkers, he used to fly these RC models. Mm-hmm. And he told me, there are really a small flight school at the Toncontín International Airport. We should go there, find out what's going on, what's the basic process to start with flight training, and maybe do like a familiarization flight or something like that. And we did it. And I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
That's what I started.
So you have like a discovery flight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Discovery flight.
Do you remember what kind of airplane that was?
It's a Cessna 150.
Oh, 152 or 150?
152.
152. Yeah. And so here you were just taken up in the pattern and
yeah,
like
exactly.
About an hour long, or how was it?
Yeah, maybe just like 30 minutes flying around the city, pretty close to the skyscrapers because it's a really small town. Mm-hmm. And then, I realized this is what I want to do the rest of my life.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was where the bug.
But I didn't have the resources or the know how to start. So, I had to start, saving some money and thinking about a plan.
How old were you when this was happening?
Like around 25, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were already college bound, or you were already graduated?
Yes, I was about to finish a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were telling me you have a college degree in something other than aviation. What is it?
Yes, computer science.
So computer sciences. So here you are, and maybe some listeners listening to this podcast right now are going, wait, hold on a second. Here you are having a education in computer sciences, in IT, something that a lot of people are after these days. And you decide to go make a sharp right turn and go into aviation. Did your parents and did your family say anything negative about making that move, or were they very supportive?
Well, at the beginning it was kind of hard because then when I finished my college degree, I start working for a big company, let's say that, and I got some good money. However, you know, moving to a different careers, yeah, it was like a gamble because I didn't have experience at all related to the field. Nobody in my family uh, knew about that, so pretty much I start everything from scratch. So but I knew it because I did my own research about the future. What are the future plans in my career? What else can I get in a couple of years? And I told myself, sometimes you have to invest in something in order to get some, the return of this investment, right? And at the beginning it was hard because living working as an engineer, I got some good money, and then I have to move from this career, IT, to aviation, and the money was not too good like here. It's pretty much the same scenario a couple of years ago. But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what year?
Well, I started working as a commercial airline pilot 11 years ago.
11 years ago. So
Yes.
11 years ago in Honduras, you were
Yes.
flying for an airline outfit. And what was that? Was that your first airline job?
Yes, exactly.
And what airline, if you can?
It's a former TACA Airlines, so it's a regional airline from TACA, which later became Avianca.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the company that I used to work for.
And what was the first airplane you were flying?
ATR 42 300 series.
So how many passengers does that carry?
It's like around 48 passengers.
48.
Mhm.
And so did you have a flight attendant and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're flying in and out of Honduras on your very first airline job, which was the ATR 42. What kind of flying? Like, what was a typical flying sequence for you?
ATR is a regional aircraft. So pretty much flights 200 miles away from our base.
Oh, so like short hops.
Short flights.
Yeah.
Central America is not too big, Even Honduras is smaller than Florida. So usually ATR works perfectly for a market like Central America. So you can go from Tegucigalpa to San Salvador or to Guatemala, even to San Jose, Costa Rica. It's just perfect. So sometimes, a couple of years later, I have the opportunity to fly Colombia as well.
Okay.
A couple of times. So it has the autonomy, endurance to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you were doing a lot of the regional flying.
Yes.
And you were going even outside of the country into the other
international flying
into the countries in Central America.
Yes.
And did you ever get anything further out?
The aircraft was pretty much capable just for regional flight. So, yeah, Central America and sometimes Colombia, as I mentioned before.
Yeah. What was like the longest flight you were doing back then?
One time I did a ferry flight from Guatemala to Bogota.
Okay.
Yeah, and
like an hour and a half, 2 hours?
No, it's like 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah, this is not too fast. The airplane is not too fast. So, and
what was a typical cruising altitude in that?
Like 20, flight level 230, around 230.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how many years were you there doing that?
Almost 10 years.
10 years. And how long did it take you to upgrade?
3 years.
Now you've looked at and you've been in the U.S. market now for quite some time, and you've seen how the U.S. market operates. If you were to compare flying at a 121 operator in the U.S. to your experiences flying for like a regional carrier out of Honduras, what were the biggest differences between the two?
Well, even flying a regional aircraft like ATR, years later, I had the opportunity to fly the ATR 72-600, which is the same model that Silver Airways has here. So it's a great airplane. So, but this is a completely different market. This is the main market in the world, US, and there are hundreds of airports around, and the purchase power that the people has here It's completely different than Central America or South America. The
So
economy
you
is
mean your clientele wise?
exactly.
Oh. So who are your normal clientele out of Central
Mostly
America?
people. We were like a feeder airline because we were like a really big company. So mostly our customer, they used to fly from, let's say, Tegucigalpa to San Salvador, which was the hub, and then international flights from
there.
using Airbus.
Yeah.
Fly to South America on US, Canada.
On Avianca, then
Yeah,
would
exactly.
pick them up and
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you were there, you started a family, got married, had some children, and decided, how did that work where you decided, I want to do something different, to get out?
Well, for all of us, 2020 was what can I say about this?
You mean
Terrible year,
the
COVID.
COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
So the pandemic happened.
Yeah, exactly. And March 2020, well, COVID hit. And in Honduras, we were on lockdown for almost 8 months.
The whole country.
The whole country. Yeah, the borders closed.
What was it like? I mean, could you not leave your house or
Yeah, exactly. In order to leave your house, you need to get like a
pass
or something like that. You need to contact the local police and let them know, if you were like running a business, you were entitled to do so. However, we used to go to like a supermarket or drugstore based on your last number of your ID card. Yeah. For example, my number, 0 at the end. So my day was Mondays. So if I need to go to the bank or restaurant or somewhere else, well, not restaurants, like a drugstore or
buy food,
basic buy
grocery
food,
store, yeah.
only on Mondays.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, something like that. It was kind of hard, but well, it is what it is. Now it's over. Well, anyway, 2020 was really a hard year, and my former company, they decided to, they shut down the whole operations, and all of us pilots, flight attendants, maintenance, gate agents, all of us, we were pretty much furloughed or laid off. So it was the end. Yeah, and then at October the same year, they decide to to relax the restrictions, and for some reason the company decided you should go to the SIM and to do your recurrent training, and we did it. And finally, I had the opportunity to fly one more time, December 2020. But then I guess the company realized that we were not ready yet in terms of the market. And 2021 was my last flight at Avianca. Yeah, that's kind of sad, but in the middle of the darkness, around September 2021, I had the opportunity to come here. Yes, I got my green card, and checking the news every single day, and I realized that the market here was surprisingly recovering really fast.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, you should go there. Now you have the green card. I always, it was my dream, coming here and work for a company like the one that I now, and yeah, I did it.
Yeah. Now you were telling me, we were talking earlier in the month, you go out and have dinner together, and we'll get to how you and I met and the process of our training here in a moment. But you and I were talking over dinner, and you were explaining to me that getting the visa to come here and to get the resident alienship or the visa almost didn't happen. You had to apply for it, and it's kind of like a lottery, right?
Yeah.
So how does that process work? So you're an airline pilot, and what kind of airline licensing or regulatory agency is governing the pilots over in Honduras? It's not the FAA, obviously. What is it?
The current name is AHAC. That's the name in Spanish, but it's pretty much the aeronautical agency. Yeah.
And is it just for Honduras, or is it all of Central America?
No, just for Honduras. Each country has its own,
regulatory agency. Now you have your licenses, your commercial, your ATP or whatever the equivalent is, and now you having all this hard time. Your company shutters its doors not once but twice, and you decide the U.S. market is much better at the rebound after the COVID pandemic happened. And so there's a lot of opportunity in the U.S. and you saw that. And how did that process work for you to apply for your visa and then win the lottery?
There were many things involved in my decision making. First, even without having the visa on my hand, I came here at the beginning of 2021 and I decided, I had to start my license conversion process, my local ATP to FAA ATP. Mm-hmm. And I love Airbus. So I went to a flight school in Fort Lauderdale to start my conversion process, ATP, CTP program, and then the type rating. And I did it. And I got
You did it and you paid for it.
Yeah, I paid for it.
So you came to the US on was it a travel visa?
Yes.
So while you're visiting,
visa.
You came in and you paid for your ATP CTP conversion.
Exactly.
And with that, you went to a sim company to get your Airbus A320 type rating. How long did that process take?
It took almost a month.
Okay.
From the whole program, the ATP, CTP, and then the initial type rating. Yeah. And then, at the end, I got my FAA ATP Airbus, so it was great. I didn't have, the legal requirements to come here to work for a U.S. company. However, I knew an FAA license is valuable no matter where you want to go, right?
Mm.
So I did it. And then, regarding to the visa process to come here, I think I am persistent. And every single year, sometimes some countries in the world, Honduras was one of them, but not anymore. At the Department of State, they have this. It has this program, Diversity Visa Lottery. The program is designed to encourage people from different nationalities to come here in order to have like a really diverse country. South African people, Asian people, South American, Central American people. And it was a free program to participate. However, it's a lottery. In order to win the program, you have to participate in the process. But it's not just you. Millions and millions are doing the same at the same time. It's free. But I did it. I did it 7 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Every single year. Every single year.
It's called the Diversity
Visa Lottery.
Lottery.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I did it during the 7 years. Sometimes I don't know if the destiny or if you have faith, the different things. But then in 2020, in the middle of the COVID, we realized as a family that we were winners.
Yeah. Wow.
But we didn't get the visa immediately, We want the opportunity to participate in the process. It doesn't mean you're going to get your visa.
Oh, okay.
It's not guaranteed at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And besides that, every single U.S. embassy in the world was closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of, oh my God, I got this, but at the same time, kind of disappointed. But as I mentioned before, I'm persistent and I have some faith. Yeah. So I did what I had to do. Everything has to be done perfectly. I said to myself, documentations, birthday certificates, marriage license, everything. Mm-hmm. And then I sent a couple of emails to my local embassy in order to, started the process. However, and they never respond because, you know, they were not operating.
Yeah.
So, and usually this program, it has like expiration date. It's based on fiscal year. So every single year ends, every single, like, what can I say about this?
The application? Or?
Yeah, the application process ends at September. Yeah, September 30. So if you don't get your visa by September 30, it's over.
Oh, so you forfeit your
exactly
your opportunity, your process.
Even if you were one of the winners, it doesn't mean anything. You are over. So, but anyway, then for any reason, well, the world starts moving, you know, and my local embassy, they decide to start like doing these interviews. So like maybe like 6 days before the end of the application process, we received a phone call like 7 a.m. in the morning. I was ready. I was waiting for that day. And one of these officials, he told me, you know, you have to be here tomorrow for interview. But besides that, you need your medical stuff. Everything has to be done. So I moved immediately. Like 10 minutes later, I was in a hospital trying to get everything, you know, tested. And the day later, we went to the interview with a U.S. officer. And, well, we got the visa.
That's it?
Yeah, like 6 days.
6 days left before the opportunity would have expired.
Exactly.
You got it. And this was 2021.
Yeah, 2021.
September 2021.
Yeah.
So you win not just you win the lottery, but you get approved for this visa to come to the US.
Yeah, exactly. Once you finish your interview, you immediately know if you pretty much you will get the visa. So we knew it. And then a couple of days later, we received our passport with visas, and we decided to come here.
That's it. Packed it all up.
Yeah.
And did you flew over and had everything shipped, or did you start fresh?
Starting from scratch.
Wow. And with two children in tow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how old were your kids at the time?
My daughter, by that time, 10 and 3.
10 and 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, not very, not easy traveling with children. You know,
even within the same country, moving to a different city is
tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's challenging. Not to mention moving to a completely different country, different culture.
Yeah.
And many other things to learn.
Yeah.
But we did it.
You did it. And you settled down in South Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what made you pick Florida?
Well, it's close, very close to Honduras. Just from Miami, flying from Miami is just 2 hours and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
And besides that, this cultural shock won't be an issue because pretty much Florida is like the extension of Latin America.
That's it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, South Florida, I often joke that it's another country.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a separate.
Many of my characters, they say the same.
Yeah, and it's great. You know, you really don't even need to speak English because everyone speaks some kind of Spanish or Dominican.
But it's a different atmosphere.
Puerto Rican, yeah.
And well, but besides that, I have some family there.
Oh, okay.
So it's important to have some support
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you got settled in, but that didn't necessarily mean you had a job.
No, of course not.
So how did you do it? How did you transition from moving into another country, finding a place to live, getting your family situated, getting your kids into school or whatever they needed to be in, and then did you just start applying?
Well, moving to a different country is tough. So you have to start from the basics. I didn't have a place to live, a job, a driver license, a bank account, basic stuff. So I start from the basics, doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, and there's you already know this, these aviation forums like NGPA or major events.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been reading a lot about U.S. aviation for many years. So I knew that going to places like that one, it's a great opportunity. So
yeah, there's so many organizations out there that
Mhm.
help young aviators and even older ones get into the industry and help them with
many
their
of these
job
really
interview process.
good, organizations, Latino Pilot Association, OBAP,
Uh-huh.
Artaga, NGPA. Yeah, they're great, all of them.
Mhm.
So, but when I came here, it was around October at the beginning, and then I completely moved like by February 2022. So it was about time to go to NGPA. And I knew many airlines were, it will be there, like Legacy, Major, Cargo,
Mhm.
everybody. So I prepare everything, a resume, letter of recommendations, logbook,
Mhm.
college degrees, transcripts, everything,
Yeah.
And I went to this place, NGPA in Palm Springs,
Mhm.
and I had a really, really great time there. Well organized. It's a perfect place to, networking, and I have a couple of one-to-one interviews with recruiters,
Mhm.
and I felt really good. So
Yeah.
by the same day, I have like 4 or 5 different interviews, invitations.
So 4 interviews.
Yeah, regional and major airlines as well.
Okay. And you got a couple offers to interview.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, right at the
Yeah.
convention, you
On
got
spot.
offers on the spot.
Yes.
And you elected to go to what we here at Squawk Ident, we affectionately call Pioneer Airlines. You already had the one-on-one interview, then they invited you to come to their corporate headquarters to do the HR and all that stuff? How did that process go?
Well, as a pilot, that commuting could be, something to have to
It's very
think
tough.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And if you have family, it's even more important.
Especially small kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew that there are a couple of really good companies that they have Miami as a base, right?
Ah, okay.
So that's why that was my first
So more than pay, more than equipment type, more than the prestige of a particular carrier, you opted for quality of life to be as close to home as possible.
Yeah, exactly. That's what my top priority. However, I took into account other elements, like I was already type on Airbus, so I knew that could be a really competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be close to home,
Mm-hmm.
and Airbus, if it was like possible.
An Airbus type, yeah.
Yeah, and besides that, company reputation as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good system here. I know we have a really good safety records along the industry, so I was not worried about pretty much safety concerns, things like that. Not at all.
So none of the places that were offering you interviews were you thinking to yourself, "Oh, this company is not reputable"?
No, not at all. Actually,
in the U.S., we have a very high standard. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Every single company that I had the chance to talk to their recruiters, really great companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes you have to, nowadays you have the opportunity to pick one, right? So that's what I did.
You ended up at Pioneer Airlines, and you went through their long-term ground school. What year was this? End of 2001 or early 2002?
2002.
So early 2002.
Yes, like April, around April.
Around April. So you went to Pioneer Airlines. They're based somewhere in, was it Denver?
I did it at Denver.
You came in and you did your new hire indoctrination or indoc.
Yeah.
And you went through and had to learn all company policies and procedures, and that took probably a couple of weeks. And then you went into systems. Now, was that a classroom environment or was it more one-on-one?
A classroom environment at the beginning.
So how many people were in your class?
Plus 50.
Wow, 50 people.
Yes.
Wow. And you're all sitting there going through like what, PowerPoint presentations and manuals and all, everybody has tablets now. I don't think anybody has books anymore for their procedures. But so you're going through all this, and how long was indoctrination for you?
Around 3 weeks, maybe.
3 weeks.
So I can recall, yes, like 3 weeks.
Yeah. And did they pay for obviously they put you up in a hotel and all that stuff, but did they pay you throughout the process?
Yes.
You were collecting
they did it.
Income?
Yeah.
So 10 years experience flying regional ATRs, turboprops, as a captain. And you've had international flying. You did a lot of high terrain. You did a lot of going into airports that special use airports, high elevation airports, airports that have maybe more difficult airspace requirements and drift downs and all these things that our international pilots get. But you were doing this day in, day out as part of your normal thing. Then you come over to the U.S. through this wonderful process that you were able to win this position in this lottery to get through the Department of State, to get a visa, to come to the U.S., to buy your own type rating, to pay for your own type rating, then come in, interview at one of the organizations out there. The NGPA, was it?
Yes.
Okay, so you go to the NGPA, you get on the spot one-on-one interviews, you come back, you get invited, you end up at Pioneer, you're in Indoc, you're in there with 50 other new hires, and now you start your systems training.
Yes.
And that training, was that also classroom environment, or was that one-on-one as well?
At the beginning was classroom environment.
Okay.
Then we were assigned like a sim partner.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the one that I had, really great guy, a former Air Force guy. So he was type already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a really good team as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a lot of simulator training and a lot of, maneuvers validations and
procedure validation, maneuver
procedures,
validation.
A lot of scenario-based training. Yeah.
Yeah. It took a couple of weeks.
So you passed.
Yes.
And you went through IOE.
Yes.
And then you did your IOE out on the line, Airbus pilot, and you were based where?
Miami.
So here you were, Miami based at a major airline, at Pioneer. And how was that? Flying?
Well, at the beginning it was kind of challenging, but I knew that I was capable enough to perform my duties in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, this is my first one-to-one airline. So, you have more experience, so you already know this, but you have to be prepared. So that's what I did. Every single day, prior every flight, even a couple of days before. And I did my own research, trying to look at where usually we fly, what kind of routes, the runway that we usually use, spot everything.
So you were prepping, because you were a line holder at that point, and you were just telling me is that days before your sequence or your trip for that week, you would be looking at the Jeppesen charts, the airways, the flight plans, and you were really kind of trying to stay ahead of what was going to be expected of you so that you were familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Because, it's completely different. If you come here, let's say you work for Avianca. It's completely different once you get in contact with Miami Center, you say something like Avianca 123. They already know that you speak Spanish, right? Just your first language.
Yeah.
However, if you call ATC and you say local US airline 123, they don't know you. They will assume that you have been here for many years. So it's
now
very different, right?
Turn left heading at 070.
Yeah, exactly.
Maintain 5,000.
Different accent, different regions. So
and you'd say, okay.
Yeah.
Did they say?
Second.
Say again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But At the beginning, it was tough. Maybe a couple of days.
Yeah.
But then I felt much better.
Yeah.
Confident.
But your English is very, very good. I mean, you spoke English even before you came here, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not like this was like you were learning a language and
No.
system. You already
But
came.
it's completely different because, usually every single day as a pilot, even being English like a official language.
Proficient, yeah.
Yeah. So, but you talk to ATC Spanish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to fly to Belize. ATC speaks English. However, it's not the same, right? So you had to get used to it.
Right.
And that's what I did at the beginning.
So you were dealing with language barriers, but in reverse.
Yeah,
Most
exactly.
of us in the U.S.
Is that the other way around? I know.
Yeah, we've been here maybe 10, 20, 30 years, or maybe we're native and we're born here, whatever the case. So our understanding and our ability to pronunciate and understand what radio communications are happening are very clear and easy to us. But then when we go and fly in an international airspace, like when we're going down to, for example, Suriname, or you're going into Quito or somewhere, and you're traveling and you're crossing multiple countries' airspace, that's a barrier. It's a barrier of communication. And a lot of times, people that are training these international flying will tell you, be careful, because the controller might only know certain phrases and you might speak English to them and it's their second language. And so you have to be careful because they might go, clear that's requested, but they don't really understand what you're asking. And next thing you know, you've got cumulus granitus in front of you. And, now you got a problem. You end up on the news. So we kind of take advantage of that. And we kind of take that for granted is what I'm looking for. Because when we're here in the U.S., we think, it's not an issue. But here you are, you're coming to the U.S. for a better life for your family, for more financial and career opportunities. And even though your English is very good, still you were struggling at the beginning.
Yes.
And you were struggling the same way we struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that when we come to your country, we struggle, and now you're in our country, you were struggling.
But to be honest, at the same time, I used to fly with certain captains that they love to fly with someone who speaks Spanish going south.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
besides
that guy too.
Could be really helpful in order to get some good food and things like that. Deal with the gate agents or, people are there nice. So,
yeah.
So, but sometimes it's really good. It's important to have the same color even sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. People feels, connected in certain way, right?
Yeah.
And if you speak their same language, so they will feel better, maybe.
Yeah. And we're going to cover more about Gorky's adventure and his journey in aviation and what we've been going through with long-term training on the Airbus right after the break. And ladies and gentlemen, we're back from the break. Now, we've been speaking with Gorky, my sim partner, here at long-term training at Legacy Airlines on the Airbus. We're going to talk about the process, the upgrade that I've been going through, his initial that he's been going through. But before we get into that, I just want to wrap up his journey in aviation, how he got here. So here you were at this airline that we call Pioneer, and you had been there how long? About a year and a half?
Yeah, sometime around a year and a half, yeah.
So in a year and a half, you went from being a new hire to a pretty senior first officer. Relatively.
Slightly senior, yeah.
Yeah, like around 50%, you said?
Yes, around 50%.
Yeah, so you were holding the line. Quality of life is good. Family's settling in. And what made you start looking elsewhere?
If you want to move somewhere else, this is the time. This is the best time in U.S. history for pilots, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So seniority is everything. I don't have too much experience here, but I realize that seniority is everything. So you have to move fast. because every single week at each legacy airline, you will have 50 more pilots, hundreds sometimes. So you have to be fast.
Yeah. Get in while you can. Get in the front door, get in the back door, get in the side door. Get in while you can. And now you're absolutely right, Gorky. This is the time. We were having breakfast the other day, and some young 19, 20-year-old who's here for the summer, probably, visiting with stepmom or stepdad or something, just hanging out because he goes to school in a different state. And he was our waiter, and he was talking to us, goes, "Hey, are you guys some of the pilots that are staying around here and stuff?" And he really didn't know much about the company and how this is headquarters and stuff. He starts asking us some questions, and you and I just start having a conversation with this kid. And he was a really cool kid. Yeah, he's got a head on his shoulders. He was very bright. He really was attentive in his job, very professional. And so we gave him some advice about aviation, because even though he's not in the aviation program back in college, he was very interested in it. So we gave him some advice. But that's how it all gets plugged in together. We told him the same thing you're saying right now. Now is the time. Boeing just released some numbers last month. What was it? 540,000 new pilots in the next 20 years worldwide. That's a lot.
You're right.
It's scary, because is that going to mean if we can't make those numbers that we're going to have single pilot operations? I don't know. I don't think in my lifetime, but that's for another podcast, my friends. So Gorky, you're ready to move on. You're ready to move in. How did you make the leap from Pioneer to Legacy?
Okay, in my particular case, in order to move to a Legacy airline, I need to build some experience, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I did in my former airlines. And now I feel, I am confident about my capabilities and my personal development. So I went one more time to this NGPA.
Okay.
Because, it's worth it, The last year I did the same, got a couple of interviews. So
it worked the first time.
Yeah.
Why not?
Exactly. And by this time, I have more, competitive advantages than before.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're a working pilot.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's completely different. If you go to one of these aviation conference without even having a job, it's kind of tough, right? Mm-hmm. Something, if you have financial issues, things like that, you are going to go and pick the first one. But not this time. I was, thanks God, in a better position, so I had the opportunity to really think about my future. Yeah. That's what I did. And I went to NGPA one more time, and I had the opportunity to have my one-to-one with one of these legacy recruiters, really fine lady. And she gave me a couple of really good advices. You have to fix this, try to improve this. And I did. Yeah, I did my best. A couple of days later, I received an invitation, interview invitation. Mm-hmm. My first priority was, you need to be prepared. This is one lifetime opportunity. So I did my research. I went online. I talked to one of my mentors, who is already here. So he told me, be prepared. Don't waste this opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I studied a lot. I check every single, background details, licenses, driver records, everything, because you have to disclose everything, right? Mm-hmm. And even college transcripts, everything. And I went to the interview, well prepared. I pay for this prep company, and they gave me really good tools. It helped me to build my confidence, and I had my interview.
So you actually paid for
interview preparation.
Interview prep. Okay, yes. And was that expensive?
Around $900.
Wow. Okay.
US
So it's not
dollars.
cheap.
No, not at all.
And
It's
what-
worth it.
And what's involved in that? Is it just like an online thing or? What?
Okay, let me explain this to you. First, they're gonna send you a couple of PDF and some audios in order to, prepare your answers.
Okay.
And a couple of days later, you will have a one-to-one interview with one of their representatives,
Oh, okay.
which many of them, they used to work as recruiters from these companies, from these airlines.
Oh, okay.
So they know. So they know how people
What the
behave, how
questions that
pilots
they
behave,
ask.
so
Yeah.
what kind of question may be
Right.
asked. So she told me, you have to fix this, improve this. This is the best way to answer these questions,
Oh,
things like that.
Mhm.
And a couple of days later, they arrange like a mock-up interview.
mhm.
One captain and one human resource representative. And we did an interview, like a real interview.
Yeah.
And they didn't say a single word until the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in order to feel the real pressure.
Yeah.
And like a real interview. So it was just perfect, because these tools help you to build your confidence.
All right.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I did that, because you don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste an opportunity like that.
All right.
And as a pilots, all of us, we are well prepared. We know what to do. But sometimes you need to find the perfect words or the phraseology or the right way to answer
Right.
certain questions.
Sometimes it's not the words you use, but
It's the way
it's
that
the
you...
way you're using them.
Mhm.
hmm
Yes, exactly.
So you ended up at Legacy Airline at HR doing your interview. You had two line captains that were asking you the questions.
Yes.
How did that interview go? Was it intimidating at first?
No, not at all.
Because you had the prep.
Besides that, even without having a prep, they are professionals.
Okay. They made you feel
Yes,
Welcome.
they care about that. Besides that, they want you there.
Yeah.
They know that you are well prepared, that you are capable, that you are professional. So, but they have to check if
Right.
everything's true. So, besides that, you have to. Sometimes all of us have mistakes, like a driver record, so things like that. So
Mhm.
make sure to disclose everything.
we're all human.
Exactly.
Don't try to hide anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
exactly.
they'll find it.
Exactly.
They'll find it.
Yeah,
They're
gonna
a huge
find
company.
it. So
They can afford to
be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Dig
be
in.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to dig. And besides that, they have these companies that they're going to run this background check.
Right.
Eventually, they will know.
Right.
So these two captains, they were really professional. They wanted to know what will be your behavior, pretty much, during certain circumstances or events like emergencies. So what would you do if this happened?
Oh, okay.
So they are not asking you as a first officer. They are thinking about you as a captain.
Right.
Your decision-making process. What are you thinking about? What is your next step? How do you use your resources? So it's everything. ATC, your flight attendants, your first officer, your captain, the company,
Mhm.
everything. So pretty much that is all that they want to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you think that obviously the interview went well, but did you walk away from that interview feeling that you did a good job?
Yes.
Okay. What was the hardest question that you believe that they asked you?
It was not a technical question, but the questions was something like this. Tell me about the time that you had to fly with someone you didn't like. How did you handle the situation?
Aha.
Yeah.
Conflicting personalities
Exactly.
on the flight deck. Yes, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, this is not a technical question, but it's about emotional intelligence, right? I think that's one of the hardest questions. Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because today was a big day for us. We had loft, and we'll get to our training here in a minute, but we had loft today, and you said that in the debrief. You were saying, yeah, sometimes, you know, it's difficult to fly with people that lack emotional intelligence. And our check airman looked at you and went, wow, I like that. And that's a great term, emotional intelligence. And that is really what they're looking for, isn't it?
Exactly.
In an interview. They're looking to see, are you an asshole? I mean, there's no other way to put it. Are you a person that I want to go and have a beer with after the flight is over? Are you the person that I can have a conversation with that's not going to jump down my throat if you and I disagree on a topic or something? Are you going to be mature, articulate, intelligent, emotionally sound? Or are you going to be one of those pilots that gets all bent out of shape over the littlest of things and starts yelling at people? And you're like, wait, whoa, what's happening here? Are you going to be a jerk?
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes you will be flying with the same guy for days during 7 hours in a aluminum tube. So you have to do something, right? And you have to behave properly, even if the other pilot is not the a great guy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
You know, you just might not get along, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But you have to recognize it, and you have to be, like we always say, you have to have thick skin in this industry, and you have to, especially as a first officer, you have to be a chameleon. You have to be able to adjust how you are in, you know, at work with this particular person, because maybe one person is going to only want to talk about, you know, their sports and football, and you know, who look at his coach and look at that coach, and maybe you are interested in that, maybe you're not, maybe you disagree, maybe your home team is a rival to their home team, but you have to be able to get past that and realize, well, we have a job to do.
You know, you told me something like that a couple of days ago. I don't know if you remember. You used to fly with a captain who nobody wants to fly with him, right?
Right.
But then you realize that he was kind of perfectionist. But it's not too bad at all, because he was following the rules. And sometimes people don't like follow the rules.
And what you're talking about is, just to give a little bit of context to those listeners out there, they're like, what are you talking about? Many, many, many years ago, I was telling Gorky over dinner about a captain I flew with over at Sandpiper, and the minute I saw his name, I had never flown with him before. I didn't know who he was, and I asked one of my roommates at the crash pad, you know, what do you know about this guy? And they're like, oh, dude, drop that trip or call in sick. I'm like, what? Like, oh yeah, that guy, man. He's a check airman, and every flight is going to be a check ride. He's going to quiz you on everything, and if you get even a syllable wrong, he's going to be calling you out on it, and you can forget about like reading the paper or, you know, anything. He goes, he is a militant. He is, you know. I'm like, well, okay, that I've flown with people like that before. Not a big deal, I guess. Sure enough, after the first flight, he was like snapping at me because I wasn't reading the checklist verbatim. I was maybe, you know, truncating or abbreviating some things, or maybe I wasn't enunciating correctly, or I was doing something out of order from the way it is in the book. And this person was very much black and white. He goes, there's no gray area. He goes, you do it exactly the way you're supposed to do it when you're supposed to do it. The script. You know, we've been hearing a lot about that this week, right? The script.
Stick to the script.
Stick to the script. Now, as long as you get it done, most people don't care about the script, right? So what? You did this a little bit out of order, or you did both of these flows together because it saves time. Okay, but in the training environment, you stick to the script. And this particular captain / check airman stuck to the script to the point where he was like basically militant. And after that first leg, I was upset. And I called home and I said, Dad, this guy, man, my friends told me about him. He's kind of a jerk. I don't know if I want to fly the rest of the month with him. I had to fly the whole month with him. And I was told that, you know, hey, is flying with him going to make you a better pilot? Aren't you supposed to be doing it the right way anyway? What are you complaining about? What? You're a professional. Do your job. Learn something from him. And when he makes a mistake, call him on his shit. Make it a game. She goes, you'll probably end the month a much better pilot. And I was like, deflated. And then I thought, you're right. And so that's what I did. From that day forward, for the rest of the month, I would fly like every single time it was in the simulator on a check ride. And when he made a mistake, I'd call him on it immediately. I'm like, don't you mean this, Captain? And he'd smile. And the minute I started doing that, he backed down a little bit. And he let a few things go. And he was a lot more personable. And I started asking him about like his son and hockey and things like that he was into. And next thing you know, he's like, hey, you want to go grab a beer on the layover?
But you find a common interest,
sure.
right? That's the key.
Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily because I'm a big sports fan or anything, but I just asked the questions and I was interested in what he had to say.
Even a really small talk, could be really productive.
Yeah.
So break the ice.
And I think, I never really thought about it, but what you said, it kind of fits. I went from being emotionally hurt or annoyed to having the emotional intelligence, to borrow your words, to say, well, let me just make the best of the situation and not let it bother me and have the thick skin. And at the end of it, I made a friend.
That's great.
And that's what I really wish that the listeners out there that are thinking about getting into an aviation career think about. You're not going to get along with everyone, but you can at least have the emotional intelligence to try, or emotional maturity, if you will.
Besides that, it's safe. So sometimes here is slightly different, but if you go to South America, Central America, there are a huge power distance between captains and first officer.
Yes.
And that could be a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take that into account. Yeah. Sometimes it's really important, besides just getting along with your captain or your first officer, because you need to keep this communication channel up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen.
Break down those barriers of communication. Yeah. Yep. So here you were, you got through your interview, you got a job offer. And how long between the job offer and the day you started?
Around 1 month.
About a month. And that gave you enough time to tell your previous employer, hey, this will be my last month. Like, did you tell them, hey, did you walk into the chief pilot and say, look, I got a job here at Legacy and I'm going to be going there as of this date?
I gave them the right time. You have to be professional, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Don't
not
burn a
going to
bridge.
quick and tomorrow, because you don't want to be that guy, not at all.
Right, because you burn that bridge, and then what happens if you get furloughed? Now you can't.
And they are not going to take that personal. We're thousands of pilots here, and they know the current environment, so they are aware of the situation. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Now, your in-doc started a while ago. You were brought here to the big Dallas, the big D, and you went through your in-doc class, and you had a lot of people in your class, right?
Yes, we were around 60.
60 people. And we have classes starting every 3 or 4 days, right?
Every week, yeah.
Every week, at least one class starts?
At least every week.
At least every week. So 50 people. What was your class made up of? Like, what kind of pilots?
Different backgrounds. Corporate guys, military, Navy, Air Force, major, flows from regionals.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
And out of that class, like that, I mean, you learn about indoctrination, indoc. You learn about company procedures, rest requirements, and everything from scheduling to standard operating procedures, basically. Right? SOPs. SOPs are, it's like the rules, right? The standard.
Yes.
And we always follow SOPs when we're out on the flight line. And then you had a little bit of time off and you started long-term training, flight training. and that's where you and I met.
Exactly.
So day one, and here's the difference. Yeah. The difference between over at Pioneer and over here at Legacy is after Indoc, our systems, they gave you a what they would call ethos or a computer-based training, and we had to complete it at home on our own. They give you a couple of weeks to do that. It's like 26 or 27 hours of training online on the computer. And then, you take systems tests and systems validations and stuff, and you're doing all this online. It's very monotonous and boring, and, you got to try to stay awake for that stuff. Even if you don't, it's the first time on the airplane, it's the computer generated voice with a couple voices. You are correct. That is incorrect, and you have to go back and really study and look at all the digital resources you have on your tablet, all the different manuals. It's a lot of work.
You have plenty of resources available, even instructors, real instructors, they will be available to you. If you have a question.
Did you do the virtual system tutorial stuff?
I didn't have the need because I was already type on the aircraft I'm flying with now. But yes, I was aware of that, that I have all the resources available if needed.
Yeah.
So, but a couple of my classmates, they use it, and they say that's really great asset that they have there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you went through your computer-based training, and then you showed up day one. And that's the day you and I met, because day one, we're in what they call the virtual training device, the VTD or something like that, or virtual device trainer, VDT, however they call it. And so we're sitting there, and it's me, it's you, and it's a ground school instructor. And we're sitting in front of what equates to 5 or 6 touchscreen monitors that are laid out just like the flight deck of the Airbus A320, with touchscreen, every button you can touch. And we started going through all the systems and all the experiences, from entering flight plans to flying departures to engine out procedures, all of that in this trainer. It's not a simulator. It's just a training device in a classroom, one-on-one instruction. This is what happens when you lose hydraulic system, like the yellow hydraulic system, and they can show you what it looks like in the airplane. And then they have a computer off to the side, and we were talking about the diagrams and this is where the air flows through this duct work and this shutoff valve, and this is what closes. And so you're going through all this, and we did that for 2 weeks?
2 weeks, almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So
yes.
So 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. And then we came back to do the simulator training.
The sim training.
So that was 3 weeks.
Almost 3 weeks, and then, maneuvers validation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did 2 weeks in the sim. And we did a week of, get in the simulator. This is what it looks like. And this is how do you turn on the aircraft? It's cold, dark aircraft. And now we were doing it on this VPT, a virtual procedures training trainer. And then we're doing it in the simulator, and we're doing some flows. How did this training environment, where we have all these resources with digital training devices and full motion simulators, how did this training differ than what you experienced over at Pioneer?
It's pretty close, to be honest.
Is it?
My former company, they have a really good training program as well. Really great instructors. It was it's pretty close. Both companies, great instructors, good atmosphere, and they are willing to help you if it's needed,
Yeah.
Yes.
No one sat there with a stick and hit you in the arm.
No,
don't
not
touch
at all.
that.
Not at all. Yeah. Yeah, they know that they will have students with different backgrounds. So many of them, they never had the chance to fly airliners. So the crew resource management is completely different from them. So they had to take that into account.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what's been your favorite part of training here past few months?
My favorite part We are almost done.
We're almost done. One more day.
Yeah. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
It's it could be like overwhelming, but eventually it will be over and you will be just happy. So you have to study, work hard, play hard, and eventually you will get rewarded. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And you've been going through this training. What's been the hardest part for you?
Well, every company has different procedure, even being the same aircraft, but you have to stick to script, right?
Mm-hmm.
Follow the company rules, fly the aircraft in the way that they want, and make sure to fly safe.
Yeah.
So
their profiles,
in my mind, there are 3 different versions of how to fly the Airbus.
Yeah.
So, and I have to get rid of the previous 2.
Yeah. So you had your initial type rating, which was Airbus training.
Airbus is standard Airbus.
From standard Airbus.
Yeah, and then the other
training.
company.
Then you had the other company, then their way.
Then Legacy. So.
And now at Legacy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is because every company has different needs. And the procedure are completely different, right? So pretty much they are tailored procedure.
Yeah. And that's tough because really, if you stop and think about it, maybe it's a good thing more than anything else, but you really have gone through all 3 of these training events in a relatively short period of time within the last 3 years. So in 3 years, you've gone through 3 different Airbus training events.
Yes. Pretty much 3 different initials, completely.
3 different initials.
Yes.
And I was joking around, and I was telling one of my instructors, I'm like, I don't know who I owe money to, but to give me or pair me up with an FO that has had 3 different training events in the last 3 years. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anyone more prepared. I mean, you knew more systems than I did.
Well, but you have been great as well. I mean, you're very knowledgeable as well. So don't get me wrong. I think the same for you, right? Great partner.
You. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Now, our training here is almost done. Yesterday, we did maneuvers validation. That's a big one. Okay, so that's where you're in the simulator with a check airman, and you're going through everything you've learned in the past 2 weeks. And you're going through the single engine takeoffs, meaning your V1 rotate and boom, something happens. Engine fire, engine failure, compressor stall, major damage, engine fail, either way. And you have to keep the airplane lined up on the center line and track outbound on the runway, fly the heading, and you have to do all the callouts and procedures perfectly. I mean, and it's tough because all of your senses in that simulator are being utilized, from motion to hearing to tactile senses to visual senses with what's going on your PFD and your ND and your ECAM, upper ECAM, engine warning displays. And you're learning a million new acronyms because every company is going to call something a little bit different. And so you're going through all this and this litany of the script, as we were saying. And it has to come second nature. It has to. Because if you stop to go, oh, well, how much should I trim? And you get to the point where you know what to do, but then you're so overloaded that all of a sudden you stop breathing.
A couple of days ago, one of my instructors, one of my friends, did you see this movie, Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah.
Do you remember? He told the other pilot, a rooster, if you think you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that, right? I don't even...
It's like that. I mean, the original Top Gun said the same thing. Yeah, if you think you're dead.
It doesn't mean you are not going to think, but you have to...
You just have to know it well enough to where you don't have to think about what you're going to do next. You have to anticipate, you have to react, and you have to do what you're supposed to do. How much pressure do you put in the left rudder if the right engine has failed? and how long should you hold it in for before you trim? And then how long should you hold that trim for? What are you looking for? Where are your eyes going? And what are you asking your pilot monitoring to do? What are you supposed to say to ATC at that very moment? And how does this change with an engine fire versus an engine failure? And all these things, all of these senses are being tested, and you're processing thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of bits of information in your mind all at one time. And then they're like, okay, that was good. We're going to pause the sim. It's my sim. We're going to snap you back to a 5 mile final. We're going to do it again this time. This time it's going to be to a go around, or this time it's going to be to a landing.
And in the meantime, you're sweating.
You're sweating. Your palms are sweaty. You're like, your glasses are getting fogged up. You know, everything is going on, and you're like, and a couple of times we looked at each other and we're like,
Namaste.
Namaste,
Breathe.
brother. Breathe. Breathe. Namaste. And so we're laughing, you know, because it's kind of like when an emergency is happening or an event is happening in real life out on the line. You have an emergency descent, and all of a sudden you're going through all this stuff, and you look at the pilot next to you, and sometimes you just have to grab him in the shoulder and go, "Hey, bro, you good?" Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to it. All right. So, and it's like that in the simulator for 4 hours straight with a 10-minute break in between. So for 4 hours straight, you're getting bombarded by this. And the reason the Squawk Ident podcast has not been out regularly lately is because we've been going through this. And when you get back to the hotel room, you're exhausted. Maybe not physically, but mentally, you're exhausted. So, and they tell you, just go have an adult beverage and, you know, go hang out, have a good dinner, and don't look at this stuff till tomorrow. And that's what we were doing. And then in the morning, we would get ready. We would study for a few hours at the breakfast, and then we'd go again. And yesterday was our MV. We passed. Today was our LOFT, or LOFT, Line Operated Flight Training. And tomorrow is our LOE, which is our check ride. Now, it's not a type ride because we're both type. So we should actually be studying right now, not recording this podcast. So it's going to be a little shorter today than usual. But yeah.
We're prepared. We're ready to study.
We're ready. We're ready, I'm telling you. And we got the paper tiger hanging above my head here in the hotel room. We're going to go through some flows. We're going to go through like which airports we're going to be going to tomorrow. We're going to be preparing. And then by tomorrow afternoon, I completely expect both of us to be on our way to get out of here and go home for a few days before you have to come back for some international training. And I'm going to have to come back in a week to do some what we call pilot leadership and mentoring training, aka Captain Charm School. So, Gorky, it's been both exhausting and very rewarding.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and you know, you have been a really great partner. It's almost a month since the first time we met.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You never forget your training partner.
No, never.
It's like you had a good training partner over at Pioneer.
Yes.
And you probably had a really good training partner over at Taka and Avianca. So you never forget the people that you have suffered through PTSD with.
But it's something good at the end. Building like relationships.
Yeah,
this is great. Yeah, eventually, this is a really small war. Hopefully, we are going to fly together soon.
Yeah,
the real war. And yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
I have to pick up some trips going through Miami. We can have a cortadito and an empanada together. But before we wrap it up here today, Gorky, I just want to say thank you for sharing your journey with us, sharing your story. We're going to talk about two things that we were talking about with our instructors lately on the debrief. After we're done, we sit there and chit chat, a little bit. One was something that I asked one of our instructors. Hey, did you hear about this pilot who went viral with his PA? And everybody kind of like uncomfortably went, yeah, we heard. What am I talking about? I'm talking about an article from CNBC, which I'll put a post or I'll put a link in the show notes here. It's entitled, "An Airline Pilot Went Viral for Scolding His Passengers. A Harvard Expert Says It's Great Leadership and Bravo." not everybody agrees with them. I'm going to remain neutral, as I'm sure Gorky will too. But what we're talking about is a video of an American Airlines pilot scolding his passengers during a pre-flight announcement went viral. Some people deemed it patronizing or patronizing, however you like to say it, tomato, tomato. Others, including a Harvard University expert, are hailing the pilot's speech as an example of strong leadership at a time when passengers desperately need it. I say bravo to the American Airlines pilot. He has every right to do that. He's the captain of the flight, and he's in charge of what happens, said Bill George, an executive fellow at Harvard Business School and author of True North, Emerging Leader Edition. He tells CNBC, if something goes wrong, he has the obligation to go back to the nearest airport and land, and no passenger likes that. In the video, which started circulating last week, the pilot set some ground rules for his passengers, including what they should expect from their flight attendants and how they should treat each other during the journey. I'm not going to read you the whole article, but I do have some audio. Let us hear an example of what was said.
I'm really here for your safety. After that, they're here to make the flight more enjoyable. They're going to take care of you guys, but you will listen to what they have to say because they represent my will in the cockpit or in the cabin, and my will is what matters. Be nice to each other. Be respectful of each other. I shouldn't have to say that. People should treat people the way you want to be treated, but I have to say it every single flight because people don't, and they're selfish and rude, and we won't have it. Okay? Stow your stuff. Get it out everybody else's way. Put your junk where it belongs. Everybody have paid for a space. Don't lean on other people. Don't fall asleep on other people. Don't pass out on other people or drool on them unless you've talked about it. And they have a weather-resistant jacket. All right, a little bit of fatherhood here. The other thing. The social experiment on listening to videos on speaker mode and talking on a cell phone on speaker mode, that is over and done in this country. Nobody wants to hear your video. I know you think it's super sweet. It probably is. But it's your business, right? So keep it to yourself. Use your AirPods, use your headphones, whatever it is. That's your business, okay? It's just part of being in a respectful society. Middle seaters, I know it stinks to be in the middle. Raise your hands. Raise them up. Anybody in the middle? Like 5 people. Yeah, right. Just full. All right, nobody's listening. Fine. You own both armrests. That is my gift to you. Welcome on board our flight.
All right. So someone recorded this, posted it on Instagram. And of course, you knew this. Every flight, everyone's recording everything at all times. This captain made this pre-flight announcement. What do you think? Were they right in saying that good for him, kudos? Or was it kind of tacky and unprofessional?
Well, I believe that if you're working for a particular company, you know the rules. Usually they have social media policies that you have to follow. Just stick to it. It's basic. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, in his defense, he was making a pre-flight PA. The captain has the discretion to say. I mean, we have a script. Remember, we were talking about this just 5 minutes ago. Follow the script, right? We have a script, but it gets very boring.
Well, we live in a world that someone may get offended. So you have to be careful.
So do you say nothing? Do you say
no,
just the bare minimums and make it as sterile as possible? Or do you add some color and put your own personality into the PA? What is right?
You can put, you can set your own personality, but without being, that's too much.
He was a little, I think, condescending.
Could be, but there are maybe better ways to say that.
Yeah.
Or keep it short.
Keep it short. Keep it simple. I've been working on them.
Something like pay attention to the cabin crew instructions.
Yeah. Well, we have a script. We have a verbatim script that you can read, and it's there. You can highlight it. You can cut it out. You can practice in the mirror. And this is usually a captain duty. And since I'm
not saying that it's right or wrong. It's just not my style.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think our listeners out there, we're all entitled to our opinion. Some of you out there might go, there's nothing wrong with that. He's sick and tired of babysitting all these people. Why not? Tell them to sit down and shut up and hold on. I mean, maybe, but this is not Wally World Airlines, okay? This is a mainline carrier that a captain at a mainline carrier decided to do this. You know you're going to get recorded. You know you are. So there's no getting away with anything. You may feel this way. At Southwest, they do a lot of these kind of PAs. The flight attendants do all kinds of jokes and voices, and they're very animated, and the captains come out. And I even know a few captains personally that they come out, and when there's a delay, ground delay, they pull out their guitar and they start playing guitar.
But there's a different corporate culture.
It's a different corporate culture. Now you're dealing with the main three, American, Delta, United, and some could argue even JetBlue and Frontier as some big airlines out there as well. But any of these legacy carriers or these really big major carriers, you got to kind of find the balance between professionalism and light-weighted or lighthearted banter. I think this particular situation, my opinion, which I don't normally give, is that it's not that he said anything wrong, but I think it was a little condescending. And even the passengers' reaction, I don't know if you could hear it, they're like, wait, what? What's going on? What is he saying?
Yeah, the first words didn't sound, let's say, elegant.
Right.
Yeah. You're right. It's not about being right or wrong. Sometimes it's about how to say it.
Just like in an interview, it's how you
express
respond and explain that matters.
You can be really polite and happy person or put your personality during your speech.
Yeah.
However, don't go too far.
Exactly. Now, we want to know what you think. If you want to send us some feedback, you know where to do it. AviatorTony.com, Alpha Victor, the number 8, Romeo Tango, Oscar November Yankee.com, or send us an email at aviatortony@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your version of a Captain PA that would be acceptable for a captain to make. Why? Well, because if tomorrow goes well, then my next step is IOE, and then soon thereafter, I'll be out there on the line giving my own PAs. Not something I've done it before. Not something I'm really intimidated by. I have no problem speaking. Go figure. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think we should stick to the script so that where standard operating procedures are being, withheld? Or do you think it's okay to add a little bit more color to your PAs? I did recently hear a captain I flew with say some really cool things that I thought, man, I like that. And I'm going to try to incorporate that. And in it, every PA, somewhere in there, he said, and folks, for the next 2 hours and 30 minutes on our journey today on flight blah, 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 we are all stuck together in this large hollow tube 6 miles over the surface of the earth, traveling 500 miles an hour. And I got to tell you, it's be kind to each other. Be nice to each other. Be friendly with your neighbor just for 2 hours and 30 minutes until we get to our destination. And you'll probably never see us or them again. And he did it just no different really than this other PA, but he was positive in his message. And he was colorful, off script, off SOP, but he really did spin it in a positive way. And I don't think anybody would have been offended by what he had said. So I think there's a balance between the two. I don't think you need to be
a robot,
but I don't think you should be condescending either.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right, Tony.
Yeah. Have you ever flown with someone that made a PA that you thought, oh my God, what's...
Yes.
Yeah?
I have flown with a couple of guys. They have their own style, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one, and I just a story, just a quick story, because I know a lot of you out there enjoy these. Many, many years ago, about 16, 17 years ago, we're in Los Angeles. I was based in Los Angeles for Sandpiper for a time, and we're taxiing out, and we have what's called min takeoff fuel. Okay? Gorky and I know about this. Every day we're taxiing out min takeoff fuel. And if you're below min takeoff fuel, you either need to go back to the gate to get more fuel, or you need to contact your dispatcher before you get the takeoff clearance so that they can adjust some numbers so that they can figure out, okay, let's see what we can adjust to lower that takeoff fuel so that you don't have to go back to the gate for more fuel. And what happened was our dispatcher was not responding to us. And at the time, the only way we could really communicate with dispatch legally was through ACARS, or if we were parked with a cell phone. But we weren't parked. We were taxiing in line, getting ready for takeoff. 3 airplanes in front, 2 airplanes in front. Now we're 1 airplane in front of us. When we got up there, and dispatcher did not reply after 3 attempts to get a hold of them and say, hey, we're below min takeoff fuel. Let's adjust these numbers. I don't want to have to go back to the gate. Sure enough, dispatcher never replied to us 30 minutes into it. And we had to tell the tower that we couldn't take a takeoff clearance. We had to go back to the gate for more fuel. So sure enough, we made a couple turns. We went back to the gate. The PA that the captain made while we were taxiing back, which is another whole issue completely. Why are you making a PA while you're taxiing an airplane? But he said, well, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, this is what happened because of the long traffic line to get out of here today. The taxiing took much longer than we anticipated. Our dispatcher, we were trying to get a hold of him so that we can adjust some numbers and take off legally and get you to your destination. He did not reply to any of our requests to communicate. And so in typical Sandpiper fashion, we're going to go back to the gate to have to get more fuel, and it's going to delay the whole process. We apologize. Less than 3 minutes later, we're parked at the gate, and the chief pilot's coming up the jet bridge and pulls the captain out of the cockpit and says, what the hell did you say back there? And the captain's like, what? And he goes, I just got a phone call from corporate headquarters. Did you just make a PA saying da-da-da-da in typical Sandpiper fashion, da-da-da-da-da? And he goes, well, shit, yeah, but how the hell did you hear about that? I just got back to the gate. I said that 5 minutes ago. He's like, well, damn it, you have a director of maintenance on your aircraft in the back, and he made some phone calls to the freaking CEO, and they want me to pull you off this flight and reprimand you. And he's like, he tells the chief pilot, is anything that I said not true? And he goes, well, no. He goes, so you want to take me off this flight because I did not lie? He goes, well, just make it look like I'm yelling at you and go back to work. So yeah, but just for all you out there that maybe you're
every company has issues. So, but it doesn't mean that you have to be unprofessional or be clever. Yeah.
You can't get away with anything anymore.
Exactly.
Don't try.
There are different ways to get the things fixed. So
yeah. Now we're going to wrap this up today with one last thing that we were literally in the simulator, and we're getting ready to take a break. The sim was coming off motion, and the check airman was looking at his phone, and he goes, "Oh crap! I just got a bunch of notifications. Did you hear about the 757 that evacuated in Atlanta?" And this is what we're talking about from Simple Flying Magazine. We'll put a link in the show notes. Delta Boeing 757 evacuated after the tires burst in Atlanta. And we talked about that. We're like, well, how does that happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know yet, so don't speculate. But here's what this article by Charlotte Seat says. Things took a flaming turn for one Delta Airlines flight after landing back at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport yesterday evening, as the operated aircraft experienced an unfortunate burst in the left landing gear tires and caught fire. But thanks to the quick response of the airline's crew and airport safety personnel, all 190 passengers were safely evacuated. A tire blowout is not very common, but it does happen. Delta Airlines flight in question was Delta 1437. It was the daily scheduled commercial flight from Atlanta to Richmond and back to Atlanta. It occurred on August 2nd. Operating this flight was one of the airline's Boeing 757-200s, registration number November 676 Delta Lima. It's a 31-year-old airplane that Delta Airlines has had in their fleet since 1992. And on the day of the incident, the aircraft departed from Richmond approximately at 16:24. That's not very approximate. It's very actual. And it would land back in Atlanta around 17:37 on runway 9 left. Except this landing was anything but routine, as, according to the Delta Airlines spokesperson, the initial reports indicated that one of the aircraft's tires blew upon touchdown, and components of the landing gear were hot, sparking a fire in the left main gear. So the runway was closed for quite some time. They did do an evacuation. There are videos of this in this article. I'm not going to play them because it really doesn't demonstrate much in terms of audio. But it is really interesting to see because for the first time in I don't know how long that I've been seeing these over the last few years, no one had their carry-on bag.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of surprising, to be honest. The crew, they did an excellent job. And the passengers as well.
Yeah.
They behave properly.
Right. They left their stuff and they got out, which in an evacuation, every second counts. And if one person is blocking the aisle or the door because they're trying to get a bag from an overhead or under a seat, it's going to take valuable seconds that could lead to even fatalities. So great job on everyone. The aircraft slides were deployed. All 190 people got out. I think there was only one minor injury, which usually does happen off of a slide. People twist an ankle or something. And I'm not exactly sure what happened there. But we're going to, I'm sure, hear more about this incident here in the future. Yes. And then today, this morning, something happened out of Los Angeles. An aircraft, a Airbus A321. I don't have any news on that, but if I find an article on it, I'll put a link in the show notes. It aborted takeoff today because a window opened.
A window?
What window opens? The cockpit window.
Wow.
Okay, so there is a reason we follow to SOPs and follow the script and do things in order, because part of our pre-flight flow is
including closing your window,
making sure that the windows are locked and secured. On the flight deck, there are two windows, one on the captain's side, one on the first officer's side. And if you don't ensure they're locked and secured, and the pin is indicating red, meaning locked and secured, you could take off potentially with the window kind of closed, but not really. This similar event could have happened to me. Last month, I was coming out of Ontario. We were a kickoff flight early in the morning. I get there. The aircraft had a ground power unit plugged into it, but it was a cold, dark airplane. I got to the airplane. I established the aircraft power. I went and did my walk around. I came in, did my origination flow, and started plugging into the FMS, our route. The captain came, did his flow, did all his origination checks. And then we got to the point in our pre-flight where we talked about our routing and everything. And we said, okay, before start checklist. And I looked over and I saw the captain's window was not closed and latched. And I'm like, Captain, your window's open. He's like, what? And I look over at my window, and my window was not closed and latched. It was closed, but it was maybe a quarter of an inch from being completely closed so that it wasn't locked. Oof. And the pin was not up. And we both looked at each other and were like, what the heck? Who would do this? Who would do this? And then we thought about it. We looked forward. Our front windows were beautifully clean, not a bug on them. What happened was the cleaners came early in the morning and they cleaned the windows. And they want to be gentle with the airplane because it's an expensive aircraft. And so they didn't forcefully latch the windows. And so it was closed, but it wasn't not secured. So what do? Do you write it up and possibly get someone in trouble? Or do you write it up and say, hey, just as an info, make sure you brief your employees? What do you do?
Well, we have resources available. Every company has these safety management systems. Nobody has to be punished.
Right.
Exactly. So use the resources available. Be professional. And that's why we follow this standard operating procedure in order to make sure to comply with every item, including closing your windows.
Yeah. And now that I mentioned it to you, I guarantee you now you're going to go to your pre-flight in the airplane. Maybe in the past you kind of just looked at it and went, okay, but now you're going to look at it.
All of us, we make mistakes, but that's why you have procedures that are basically barriers to avoid these situations.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, Gorky, I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I know we've got a little bit of studying to do tonight before we wrap it up here and call it a night. Just thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and your experience here at Legacy as well.
Well, thanks to you, Tony. It has been great. So, hopefully, I will be your guest in the future.
Yeah. I'd love to have you back and hear about flying the line and how your experiences are flying down there. And I've got some friends in Miami. I'll make sure that I hook you up with them, and you'll have plenty of resources to call on if you ever have a question. Because that's what we do here.
Yeah, sounds really great.
We got to take care of each other and make sure, we can be, every pilot that has a little bit of experience has the opportunity to mentor someone. And then when that person has a little bit more experience and seniority, then they're going to take their turn and mentor someone. So it's important.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be selfish.
Be
cooperative. Try to, involve in the community, get involved and help each other.
Yeah. That's all we have in this industry is each other. We hope that you enjoyed listening to our flight today. We request that you pay it forward by sharing this podcast with your friends and family. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Squawk Ident Podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. We also love receiving listener feedback. You can send us an email or even audio feedback right from our website at aviatortony.com. That's Alpha Victor, the number 8, Romeo, Tango, Oscar, November, Yankee.com. Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram users can also find us under Squawk Ident Podcast. And let me just say one final thank you to all of you for taking the time to listen to these grateful aviators. Keep the dirty side down out there, stay safe, and take care of each other. Bye, y'all. See you. Meow. Adios. Ciao. Hey, adios.
It's an entirely different kind of flying.